Hey, what is going on you guys? It's Epic here and welcome back to another episode of Borderlands Breaking News. Guys, we've got a huge video today as we cover everything that went down at Pax East, which just wrapped up. So before we get into the video, please make sure you're subbed so that you stay up to date with all the latest Borderlands Breaking News. And ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into it. So there is absolutely a ton of things to go over in today's video, but we're going to start with the biggest story here. First and foremost, dedicated drops are confirmed to be in the game at launch across every boss and mini-boss in the game. That is a confirmation that was made during the panel at Pax East by Mr. Grant Cow, who was the weapons lead on Borderlands 3 and is now back for Borderlands 4. Now look, that is an absolutely huge piece of news right there, but I know that you guys don't want to hear me rattling on about stuff for over 6 minutes. What you actually want is for me to carry on with all the rest of the breaking news, so that's what we'll do. So, moving on, we also got a statement from someone at Gearbox mentioning the whereabouts of the Crimson Raiders following Borderlands 3. They said that right now the Crimson Raiders are dedicated to finding Lilith, and as such they are spread out across the galaxy. They mentioned that we will see more of them in Borderlands 4, so very interesting there. We've currently only seen like Zane, Moxie and Claptrap for example, and also Amara, but we are set to see more of them in Borderlands 4. Now, some quick Vault Hunter details here that we can go over. Firstly is Vex. Now, they showed off a bunch about Vex, which we'll probably do a separate video on, but the main cliff note for Vex is that she's going to function a little different to our typical Siren, because Vex is kinetic focused instead of elemental focused. Now, they did make it clear that Vex is also going to have the ability to do heavy elemental stuff, but kinetic is the main focus. She is somewhat of a kinetic lifesteal focused Vault Hunter, which could be good news, could be bad news depending on who you are as a player, but that was the details they shared on Vex. And now with Rafa, they did mention that Rafa is going to be the most agile character we've ever seen in Borderlands, which is extremely interesting, and I do wonder what they actually mean by that comparatively to other Vault Hunters we've seen. And they mentioned that he will have like a laser that he's able to shoot out, and he's also got rockets on his back that he can fire off as well. And so that was really the only details they shared on those Vault Hunters, aside with more story points, which of course we've already been over, but this is the breaking news, not the news we've already spoke about. So let's move on with more exciting details that were shared today. The biggest one, and one thing that I think is really interesting, is that Randy Pitchford outright said with his own words as clear as day that Borderlands 4 has no load times. This was something he did not just say once, it wasn't something he slipped up with, he made it clear multiple times that Borderlands 4 has no load times. I will bluntly say that I don't believe that for 1 second, and if I'm wrong on that, then hats off to you, Randy, and I apologize for doubting you and your team, but that was the terminology used. Now, does this mean that there is no load times? I don't think so at all. They don't mention the fast travel sequence like the Borderlands portal animation, which is a way of using a load time, right? So they didn't mention that. But if he means by that no loading screen, then sure, I can see that being a thing. But I don't think this means no load times, period. I don't think everything is instantaneous. I just don't see that happening with consoles, especially like the Switch 2. I just don't see that happening. Now moving on, let's talk about the compass versus minimap debate. This has been a topic of discussion for a couple of days now, and I did make a video on it, and we finally have an answer for it here today with Pax. Randy directly addressed this and mentioned that the compass is the direction they're going with. He did entertain the idea of potentially adding a minimap after launch, but this really did feel like it was more of a PR focused thing. Again, I can't see them going out of their way to make a brand new widget post launch, and he even did joke that they'll charge players $10 for it, but obviously he is not being serious about that. But yeah, the news there is that there is no minimap in Borderlands 4, no toggleable option for it. The compass is what you've got. And now moving on, let's talk about the loot system. We spoke a little bit about dedicated drops, but something else that we need to go over, which is very exciting, is crafting. So crafting has been brought up by a few creators as a possibility for Borderlands 4, but today it was confirmed at PAX that there is no crafting system in Borderlands 4, and I know a lot of people are going to breathe a sigh of relief on that. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and if you're still watching to this point, leave a like on the video, it really does help. So yes, no crafting system in Borderlands 4, that's obviously the headline right there, and that also segues back into dedicated drops being confirmed, which is very, very interesting. And then we get into stuff like legendaries. So they did speak about the rarity system in Borderlands 4, and they mentioned that there is going to be less legendaries in this game overall than there was in 3, but they want to make sure that every legendary feels like it really changes the way you play, so that is very, very interesting to hear. Now, let's get on to the topic of Pearlescents. We will make a video on this most likely, going over it in depth and discussing the topic as a whole, but they were asked some really hard-hitting questions, and to their credit, Randy did not dodge most of them at all. Almost everything was answered on the nose, and I'll give him props for that. One of them was about the rarity system in the game. They mentioned that the rarities go white, green, blue, purple and orange, just like they did in Borderlands 3, but right towards the end of that, Randy did also mention the P word, but did not say what it was, and they kind of all chuckled about it and didn't say much more about it. Now, obviously, people's minds jumped to this being a hint for pearlescents in the game. Randy did say that he was kidding and he was trolling, but Randy, I will tell you just straight up here, I have directly asked him about pearls, and I did get an interesting answer on that. It's something which I'm not going to reveal, but it does make me think, is he trolling or is he actually planning on doing what at this point is the unthinkable? So I'll let you ponder what his response to me was and what his answer means at PAX right there, and I'm probably going to end up on some kind of German article online for saying that. Now lastly, let's finish off with a little bit of endgame news here, but just before we get to that, let's talk about Ordinite. This is the currency, those orange shield things that we've seen dropping that a lot of people were confused on. They didn't really know what they did. So they outright said that Ordinite is replacing Eridium, but they also made it very clear that Ordinite is not a currency in Borderlands 4. They said that it may potentially have something to do with making enemies explode, so unless it's a gooning device, I'm not sure what it's used for. But Ordinite is new in Borderlands 4, it is replacing Eridium, but no, it is not a currency. So it does look like at this time at least, cash is the only currency that Borderlands 4 is going to have at launch. And now let's talk about Borderlands 4's endgame. So they did say that they would share more in the future, and speaking of the future, they were directly asked about Invincibles, and what they said was very interesting. They mentioned that Invincibles were going to be in Borderlands 4, but they did not mention anything about them being there at launch, which is really worrying, and they made a point to make that clear that they were most likely, I don't want to misquote, but it sounded like they mentioned that they weren't going to be there at launch. So very interesting and very worrying detail there. And then furthermore, on the topic of endgame, they were asked about Guardian rank. Will Guardian rank or Badass rank return in Borderlands 4? And the answer, sadly, is yes. There will be some kind of endgame leveling system like Guardian rank, but they did mention that it is going to function a little differently to what we've seen in Borderlands 3, and they mentioned there will be harder choices to make. My immediate reaction to this is, oh no, this is how it begins. This is that slippery slope into potential issues and cracks showing in the endgame balance system, and it really makes me worry. Stuff like Hollow Point and Overkill, Groundbreaker, whatnot in Borderlands 3, I really think did mess up balance a lot, and I really wish they didn't add them to the game. And if there is stuff like that in Borderlands 4, I think we may be in serious trouble. But of course, the big topic today is dedicated drops. That is a really big one, and this is an overall net positive. Now, how dedicated drops are going to be balanced, how the weapon system is going to play into dedicated drops, I don't know, and that is something that we are just going to have to see in Borderlands 4 when it drops, sadly. But they did mention that there is a hands-on gameplay event happening in June where streamers will be playing the game. Now, at this time, I of course cannot confirm nor deny that I will be there, but we are going to get obviously a ton of gameplay coming out of Borderlands 4 around June, and yeah, watch this space. We'll see what happens on that front, gamers, because it's going to be a good time. We're going to get a lot of gameplay, we're going to find out a lot more about the game. It is very easy to have, you know, pre-made for marketing purposes gameplay, but when you actually let players in there to poke around, that's when you find interesting stuff, right? So we'll just have to find out what goes on with Borderlands 4 at launch around then. and yeah, we'll find out where we go from there with the topic of Invincibles, Endgame, of course, PEARLESCENTS now, which is really cool. Overall, I think this was a good showing for Gearbox. I think their PAX showcase did a lot for them, and I definitely think a lot of people left this feeling better about how they went into it. Even just with the minimap stuff, having that confirmation is simply better than nothing. So yeah, I think this was a good showcase for Gearbox, and yeah, that's going to do it for today's Borderlands Breaking News. We're not going to run up the watch time here. I don't want to keep you guys hanging. Go and watch other videos today, go and have a good one, and let me know what your favorite thing about the showcase was in the comment section down below, and don't forget to keep subbed for more Borderlands Breaking News. Now, until the next time, gamers, thank you so much for watching. I'll check you all later, stay safe, and have a great rest of your day.